Good morning, y'all. How are y'all feeling on this blessed day? How are y'all feeling? Today we got many good things coming in this program. We have 9 talented interns who worked hard over the summer to make this possible. So give it up for them also. Today we have storytelling, podcasts, and cute questions and answers. And there are refreshments in the back if you need some. The restrooms are on the right. And there's also a photo booth, which is free. And some of our podcasts, all of our podcast topics are drag queens, recycling, boring jobs, music production, colorism, gentrification, herbalism, prison reform, and teenage homelessness. First off, we have Shemar Lawrence, a 14-year-old that wants to be a future photographer and that goes to Big Picture High School and also enjoys to play basketball. Give it up for Shemar Lawrence.
I feel so small. Okay. It's hot outside today. Okay, so what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna present my story. It's a story about how me and my best friend became best friends. So it takes place at Paragon Mills Elementary School at pre-K. You could say I was a bad kid in pre-K. You know, yelling at the teacher, throwing stuff, crayons. I just thought it was the most funniest thing when the crayon smacked the teacher in the head. I don't know why. But the only time I was actually a good kid was when we were in the playground. Like, just felt at peace there, and we would play. We would play games in groups. Play Power Rangers. That was the best show, coming up. That was the best show coming on television. So we played Power Rangers. I would always be the blue one, because the blue one's the coolest by my book. My soon-to-be best friend would play the green one. And then this one guy who always got on everybody's nerves, he played the pink one. Well, me and the green one, we played in groups, so me and the green one would always be like talking. We would not only talk about Power Rangers, but we'd talk about sports, basketball, family. And so me and him were like an intricate bond. We kept talking and talking. But the pink one, he always had something to say. And he would just do the rudest thing. He would snap in people's faces and stuff. Mind you, we're like 5 years old, 4. He's snapping in people's faces and stuff. And I remember one day, I think I angered him or something like that. But one day, I woke up from nap time, came lunch. He had the audacity to eat my apple slices and dip them in caramel. So I told him, if that's the vibe he was giving off, we can go to the park. Now, mind you, we're 4 or 5 years old, so this is how we're settling disputes. So we go to the park. I kid you not, we have a group of people and like a ring fight, like a cage match. We go on a slide, on top of the slide. The Green Ranger, he was the referee, so to speak. So like he said, no hitting below the belt. We don't know what we were talking about. We just started saying stuff that we saw on TV. So I looked at him, he looked at me, he said, "Are you ready to fight?" I was like, okay, bet. I kid you not. I pushed him once, he fell on the ground. I don't know what happened after that, but I know me and the green one, we laughed about it, joked about it, it was fun. But after all that, you could hear a snap in the background. Became second grade, I moved from there. And so I went to Carl Lawrence, and that's where a lot of stuff happened. But me and Green Ranger, we became friends. Ty, he became friends. I think he's on patrol right now. I don't think that's why he's able to come here. But, me and him became friends. So that was cool. I don't have a podcast. No, I'm not doing a podcast. It's the next person. I'm also the second MC for the night. And next up, we have Mackenzie Bransford. She's a pretty cool girl. She really hates peaches and worms. She really likes her mom, and she's a small, trustworthy animal. And yeah, she goes to NSA, Nashville School of the Arts. Give it up for Mackenzie.
Okay, great. Okay, so, okay. I feel like you can hear everything that's happening, like, in my mouth. But, okay. So, I'm Mackenzie, and Shamar said that. But so today I'm not going to be telling a story, but I'm going to be showing you guys a segment of the podcast that I made, which was I took someone with like a more traditional office job that some people might see as boring, and I saw how she implemented interesting things into her day-to-day lives and how she made her life more than just her job. She was a really wonderful lady. Her name was Sam Dahlstrand, and the segment that I chose to show you guys, she said something that was really inspiring and that really like showed the kind of person that she is. And I think that it's important to look at more than just what people think defines you. So yeah. What's the first thing that you like do when you wake up in the morning?
The first thing that I try to do when I wake up in the morning is a gratitude exercise. So back to the neuroscience piece, right, that we were talking about and reworking the neural pathways in the brain. So there's this experiment that was done at Harvard. It's called the Tetris effect. Do you know the game Tetris?
Oh, yeah.
So it was actually this experiment that was done. And they had these students come in and just play Tetris for the whole day, all day long. Play Tetris. And the idea of the experiment was that after the fact that they interviewed these students, they said, like, what did you find in this experiment? And they said, well, I would be outside and I would look at the building skyline and I would think about Tetris and I would think about how I could take that building and turn it that way and stick it there. Or being in the grocery store and seeing cereal boxes and thinking, oh, well, if you move that one over, right? It was like they had this. It was ingrained in their brain from doing it over and over again. And so they say with that, the what's called the positive Tetris effect versus the negative Tetris effect. So have you ever met somebody who is just so negative all the time? Complaining, it's so hot outside, this, that, whatever it is, they find something to complain about, right? And what this theory states is that it's really not their fault. Right? Because it's something that they have so deeply ingrained in their track of mind that they are constantly seeking out the negative. And so the inverse of that, so the positive Tetris effect, is looking for the good, right? Seeing the good, being positive. And so it's said that through gratitude exercises, so waking up every morning, and it can be something so simple, right? It can just be like, it's sunny today, or I got new shoes, or, I love my mom, or coffee, or it can be something like, I have a job, right? I have a roof over my head. I don't have to worry about food. I don't, these things that we often take for granted. And so it's kind of fun too, you get up and you're like, okay, you have to rack your brain some days. Some days it comes very easily. Other days, you really have to think like, okay, what are these things? And it's said that is how the positive Tetris effect is achieved, right? It's through every morning creating that neural pathway. And so that when you're walking around in the world every day, that you're trying to find these positive things. And that's the person that that's like, you could be sitting outside on a really hot sunny day and you have the negative Tetris effect. It's so hot and I wish it wasn't so hot and I'm sweaty, versus the positive Tetris effect is like, wow, what a beautiful sunny day.
We done? Okay. What do I do now? Q&A. Okay. So raise your hand if you have a question, I guess. You. So from that interview, I learned a lot, because this lady, she's very smart in ways that I didn't know people could really think. But I learned that you're not defined by the things that you have to do. So you're not defined by the fact that you have to wake up every morning and go to work, or that you have to go to school every day. You're defined by how you look at those situations. So if you take that situation and you're like, well, I really like this one person at my work, or I really like using this one computer program. And I think that those small pieces of your life are what define you. And I think that before talking to her, I didn't really notice that. But yeah, She showed me that. Ella Peters. Oh. What? No. Because I don't like sitting around, but if I have one, I'll know how to look at it now. What question? Oh, okay. Who was the lady? Okay, so her name was Sam, and she works at a place called Service Source, and they provide services for online something, something like that. And she works as a sales manager 2. And she also runs a program that brings yoga into corporate workplace, and it's called Happiness. That's what the program's called. And so that's her, and she's really cool. Oh, yeah. Okay, thank you, guys.
Wasn't that interesting? So next out, we got BB Westbard, and she goes to Hume Park, and she has pink and purple hair because she's amazing like that. She has zero idea what she wants to do with her life, and she made bread today because she likes baking. Give it up for her.
Okay, y'all, I'm short. I'm going to struggle getting up here. I'm just going to tell you that first, okay? Yep. Can y'all hear me? Okay. So my name is BB, and I interviewed Tim White about his experience being a drag queen and if he has experienced any appropriation in its culture and in the LGBT community itself. And I'm interested in that because I'm part of that community, and I wanted to know his inside perspective. So, yeah.
Imitation is the best form of flattery. If it's done in that mindset, it's good. But you can feel if something's being done out of love or if it's being done out of mean spirit. So I think it's all in where it's coming from.
Do you think your views on this topic are representative of not only Nashville's drag scene, but like nationally and internationally as well?
I would hope so. I hope that, again, I think one of our biggest messages in the LGBT community is acceptance and inclusion and tolerance. So I would hope that on a national level, people are open to allowing anyone into a drag show or a gay bar or any part of the community. I think that's vital to us being accepted and being taken seriously. If we want to move in the straight world and be respected, then we have to allow people to come into our world and treat them the same.
Is there any part of the drag culture that you personally feel the need to reject or accept?
I don't know if it's so much the drag, well, it's part of the drag culture, but it's kind of, I think, permeating the whole gay culture is something that I'm not crazy about is, again, it's all in the way it's presented, but it's sort of become chic, I've seen in the last few years, to just be like a bitch. And that's like something to take pride in. And I don't understand that. If you're just being funny or tongue-in-cheek, it's different. But this taking pride in being mean and disrespectful and being a bitch to other people is something that I don't think really has a place in any community.
Have you ever had a bad experience because of being a drag queen or being queer?
I remember growing up when I kind of got the whole acting, performing bug in high school, before I even came out, before I even really understood what I was or who I was. I remember just, the bullying you get for any reason if you're different in high school. I remember being called drama fag, walking down the hallway and that kind of thing. As far as in the drag sense goes, I've never felt threatened or endangered, but I do remember I was at a party. A woman had me come in for her husband's, I think, 55th birthday party to perform at the house. And I think it was a kind of a surprise to him and some of his friends. And it was a very straight country crowd. So I never felt endangered, but I definitely felt like maybe it wasn't the best idea for me to be there.
Okay. If you have any questions, feel free to ask. I mean, not specifically, but I have gone to Pride and see drag queens because most drag shows are like 18 plus. Yes, Mackenzie? Drag culture has impacted my life. I guess because it's been like a main part of like mainstream media at this point, and it's just kind of weird seeing, which is what part of my interview was about, seeing like people who don't really identify with any other part of queer culture itself, like adopting that certain part and leaving everything else out. So I really enjoy watching drag queens and like RuPaul's Drag Race, but it's been like ups and downs for me. All right, am I good now? Okay, cool.
Wasn't that great? I think it is important to pay attention to like the whole picture and not look at one thing because that is a big topic coming up. Next up, we have Promise Udeze. She is a 15-year-old self-taught artist with a loud and sometimes quiet personality. She doesn't like drama and fake people. She also doesn't like Cardi B, and she thinks Cardi B is trash. Period.
As you heard from Faith, my name is Promise. Hi, everybody. I'm going to be telling my story about the first time I went to Nigeria with my mother. I remember it like it was yesterday. I know it sounds very cliche, but it was true. I was 6 years old and I was in kindergarten. Imagine a shorter me with twisties in my hair and pink hair clips. I was a not very bratty child, but I was loud, energetic, always running around the place. I was that type of kid. When I heard that my mother was telling me I was going to Nigeria, I was in the living room watching PBS Kids. My mother thought that watching PBS Kids would make me smarter, I guess. So I was watching PBS Kids, and I was sitting on a large brown chocolate couch while my mother delivered the news. She paced slowly towards me and saying, "Promise, I have a surprise for you." I was very nervous and quite confused when she said that because my mother's the type of person that education first before anything, before entertainment, before like doing fun things like going outside and watching other Disney shows. And so she said, "Promise, I have a very special surprise for you." And she said that you're going to Nigeria with me. I got very excited because I never traveled outside the country or traveled anywhere before or even rode on a plane before. So I hugged her very tightly, squeezing her around rapidly with my arms. When me and my mom arrived at the airport, I noticed that everybody was busy, loud, talking. Everybody had a place to go, and I wondered where was mine. On the plane, I was mostly asleep because I got tired, and so I slept a lot on the plane. But I remembered that like people on the plane were nice, and then they gave me snacks on the plane, so that was good. When me and my mom arrived to Nigeria, I got the first greeting with the dark, dusty earth covering my toes. The weather was very hot and it felt like I was being burned alive. The mosquitoes came to the party and stung me like a big needle pressing into my skin. Not really a gracious first impression, if I do say so myself. We took a car to go to Lagos. Lagos is a monstrous city in Nigeria with big buildings, cities, very busy with loud chatter and crowding of people. I eventually arrived to the house that my family stays in. The house was enormous like a palace that made me feel like a queen. I got the sense of nerves because I never met them. I got jittery and anxious that time. I did a presentation and a project for a Spanish class that I didn't know how to pronounce the words. My mother and I walked towards the house. I had a very frightened expression on my face because I was really nervous. I clenched my hands onto my pink suitcase. I already had this bad feeling that I would be the odd one out because I was too Americanized and I wouldn't understand the culture or the language of Igbo. Turns out everything was fine. They were nice. They were nice. They were mostly nice, and I remember that my aunt, Auntie Abella, she gave me this big hat that she would always let me wear around, and it was way too big for me and looked pretty oversized. And so I also got a dress sewed for me in Nigeria. It was blue and had orange designs on it. When we were boarding to leave the plane, I saw my family, and then I waved goodbye to them and said that I'll come and see you again. Turns out, I didn't see them again, but life happens. And so, yeah, that's my story. And now that you're going to hear my podcast that I did with Onyi Woods about my topic, colorism, I chose this topic because colorism is a topic that not many people like to talk about and say that it's real, doesn't exist. So yeah, you're gonna hear it. Hello, my name is Promise Udeza, and you're listening to my podcast about colorism. Colorism is a form of discrimination based on skin color. In other words, people are treated differently based on social meaning attached to skin color. I will be interviewing Onyi Woods for this podcast. Onyi Woods is a poet and voice actress. Stay tuned and listen to Onyi's perspective concerning colorism. How are you today?
I am awesome, Promise. How are you?
I'm doing marvelous today. What did you have for breakfast today?
You know what? This morning I didn't actually have any breakfast. Normally I have either eggs and maybe a biscuit and some fruit. But today I didn't really have anything. Wasn't that hungry, but I did have some water, so I'm hydrated.
Do you mind if we go deeper into this conversation?
Sure.
How do you view your race?
How do I view my race?
Like, what race do you identify as before we go into this?
Okay. Well, I identify as African American.
Okay.
I was raised culturally African American. I was adopted when I was 6 months old, and so my ethnicity is a little questionable because of that, but I do identify as African American.
What age were you adopted?
6 months old.
6 months old, so as a baby. Was it very hard to be adopted and understanding where you came from?
Actually, no. My parents were very forthcoming. It was never like a secret or anything like that. It was never anything that I was made to feel ashamed of or anything. So it was actually, quite a wonderful experience, being told that, I was chosen as their child, and I was desired and wanted as a child. And actually, that's what my first name means, the desired one.
That's what Oni means? It's a very nice name. Well, I'm done.
Next up, Lakira Floyd. She's 15 years old, and she's a rising sophomore at Hume Fogg. She mostly has a reserved personality, but that's okay. She wants to become a doctor in the future, and in her spare time, she enjoys reading, eating, and sleeping.
Hi, my name is Lakira Floyd, and I go to UMFOG. And today I will be talking about my battle with, my journey with overcoming social anxiety disorder. So, and then I will also be presenting my podcast, a snippet. So, it's going to be a little cliche at the beginning, so. Heart thumping like thunder at 200 beats per minute. Sweat sweetly flowing down my temples onto my beating chest. Hands visibly shaking faster than Shakira's hips. It may sound like an Eminem song, palms sweaty, knees weak, something like that. But it's actually the symptoms of a panic attack. So my name is Shakira Floyd, again, and this is the story of my journey with overcoming social anxiety disorder. So I'd like to start with saying that school was a hassle. I was embarrassed to walk, I was embarrassed to eat, I was embarrassed to speak. Whenever I ate, I rarely ate, really. So I was afraid of what people thought of me when I ate. I didn't speak. When I did speak, it was barely above a whisper. My head was always down. I had no friends. The only thing that I had to comfort me at school was a jacket that I had on 24/7, no matter how hot it was. So it was very hard. So when at school, my teacher, my 5th grade teacher, he told my mother of my overwhelming, like extreme introverted behavior. I was standing under the tree alone outside every day, walking around the school. I went to Meg's, so we had to do laps around the school. And we walked around the school. I was always by myself with my head down, with my jacket on. And he told my mother. My mother sprung into action and took me to my first therapy session, of many therapy sessions. And it was okay. I got breathing exercises, I got advice, I got coping mechanisms. I did them, but I didn't think they would really work until I went back to school. It was about the last week of school, and I was ready, I was pumped, I don't know how, but I was. And I was talking to someone. I had my good old Kool-Aid shirt on, jeans, and my jacket was around my waist that time. And I talked to someone who was around my age. I was usually afraid of talking to people who were around my age because I was always afraid of judgment, because it seemed like the people who are around my age judge a little bit more than everyone else. But I talked to the girl, and I felt great. I told my mom the good news that I finally talked. I thought it was going to be a great year the next school year. However, those long 2 summer months did not work at all. So I thought that I could get off the medication and stop going to the therapy sessions, but it didn't work out. The next school year, I went back into my shell, and I still had no friends, had no one to talk to, and it was pretty bad. It was just pretty bad. And however, I met someone, her name is Rachel, and we became friends. I forgot how we became friends, but we did. It's a mystery. She was very confident, she was extroverted, and she boosted my confidence. She always gave me advice and tips and made me talk to people. And then she pointed out this other guy who became my friend later on. She wanted to talk to him, wink, wink. So I went up to him, and we went up to him, and we talked to him. And he also, it looked like he had social anxiety also. He didn't talk, he never talked to anyone. He was a bookworm. He went to the bathroom with books. He went to recess with books, ate with books, and we just became friends. We all became friends. We were all wallflowers. We had no friends, but we were wallflowers together. And we helped each other overcome the issues that we had, whether it was teasing, no friends, didn't have anyone to talk to. We all supported each other. And I would just like to leave off with the note that if you know someone, or if you are struggling with issues, whether it's mental, physical, emotional, familial, whatever issue it is, please seek help and please find a good support system, because without my mom, my teacher, and my 2 best friends who I still talk to this day, I wouldn't be where I am today. So thank you. And so now I'm going to, there's going to be a snippet of my podcast. I chose gentrification, as well as colorism. It's not a talked about topic. And gentrification, it goes on a lot in Nashville. It's the process of turning, I guess, low-class neighborhoods into middle-class neighborhoods, like renovations. And if you all heard about the tall and skinnies, that's what they are. And looks pretty weird in those neighborhoods. But that's what my topic is on. And I interviewed Kanisha Floyd, who is sitting there. She's a native Nashvilleian, so she knows some things. She also works with housing in the agency, so she knows about low-income housing and gentrification. So thank you.
So is there any advice that you would like to tell the future generation about gentrification or anything else?
Well, what I want to stress is the importance of ownership, particularly home ownership, being an entrepreneur, and reinvesting back into your community. I think all of those things are extremely important for the future generation to know about really life in general, but also being able to preserve neighborhoods, particularly Black neighborhoods and Black-owned businesses. So once again, stressing the importance of home ownership and land, reinvesting back into your community, and being an entrepreneur. Those would be the things that I would pass on to, or the key points that I would pass on to the future generation.
Thank you all for listening to the Hotline Gentrification podcast. I hope you enjoyed it. The topic of this interview really hit close to home, not only for me, but for my family. As you all heard, North Nashville has been an area under reconstruction for several years now, and addressing it today and moving forward is an important way to spread awareness to all people, not only in Tennessee, but in the nation as a whole. So once again, I thank Mrs. Floyd for sharing, and we thank you all for tuning in. I thank One Voice Nashville, Opportunity Now, and Metro Arts for making this happen. And be sure to tune in to more podcasts on our website, onevoicenashville.org. Thank you.
Thank you.
I mean, that was amazing. She had a really good, touching story, and I think it hit close to home for a lot of people, and it was something that was really relatable in her topic too. But let's keep it moving. So next, we got Ella Peters, a 15-year-old student at Nashville School of the Arts. Let me say it again, Nashville School of the Arts. Isn't that amazing? She likes plants, but she can't take care of them, and she loves putting art on her wall. So give it up for Ella Peters.
Can you guys hear me? I'm Ella, and my podcast was about trying to understand why people don't recycle. And I used to not really recycle, but my friend Mackenzie Bransford kind of got me to start going green, per se. So now I'm really passionate about that, and I wanted to interview someone who isn't and try to understand it. And my podcast is a whopping 6 minutes long. So have fun.
Hi, this is Ella. I interviewed Victor about why he chooses not to recycle. I am a strong believer in recycling and the movement behind it, so in this interview I tried to see his point of view and to get him to see mine.
My name is Victor Rajasameth. I go to Lead Academy.
How's your day been today?
It's been alright. Could have been better.
Do you enjoy going outside?
Yes.
What do you like about being outside in nature?
Just the breeze, just being out there and free.
So, do you recycle?
No, I do not.
Do you litter?
Sometimes.
How do you think that impacts the environment?
From all the trash I've been throwing away, it could build up, I think.
Where? Do you know where the trash goes?
In some waste or in the ocean.
Do you think, like, if you can't see it happening, then it doesn't matter to you as much?
Yeah. It's not that I don't care for taking care of the environment, it's just that it's just more laziness.
Do you have a recycling bin?
No, I do not.
Why not?
No one that I know of recycles in my family.
How would you feel about making a change? Do you think it's like too expensive or too much of a bother, or does it make a difference?
To me, I don't think it really makes a difference, but I'm not really looking at the whole thing off their stats or anything.
So even if it doesn't make a difference, why wouldn't you just put the effort in and try?
I haven't recycled because no one's done it. I haven't like seen most people do it near me, and so I basically don't do it.
100,000 marine animals are killed a year from just plastic. So if you just put one thing from your house, a milk carton, into a recycling bin, that could help a lot.
I would do that just since I'm not used to recycling. Hasn't been a habit that I've been realizing about.
So when I was younger, I don't know about you, but like I never really heard all this stuff about going green. Like we had Earth Day at school, but otherwise, no one ever really talked about the Earth. And I know that recently, in like the past maybe 4 years, people have really started like going at it. Do you think all this like environmentalism stuff is gonna go away soon, or do you think it's gonna stay?
Either way, I think it'd be doing not just slowing what's to come, I guess.
I obviously care a lot about recycling and doing this whole interview on it. What do you think about me for caring so much?
I don't think anything wrong with you. It's just that it's your daily thing that you do, so I can't really say much because you think you're doing it right for the earth and yourself, because since you said you felt better doing it.
So how do you expect to have children that can enjoy the outside or breathe clean air or swim in the ocean or lakes or ponds or whatever when you don't do your part to keep the earth clean?
I'm not really thinking about it that way.
So if I could set you up with a recycling bin, could I get you to consider start recycling? At least a little bit?
Yeah.
Well, thank you for coming in and answering my questions.
You're welcome.
Thanks for listening, guys. If you want to listen to the full podcast and a bunch of others, go to onevoicenashville.org. That's onevoicenashville.org.
Thank you, guys. Had a lot of fun making that, and at the end, I wasn't just like doing that. I was thinking about the PBS thing. That was why I did that. So, thank you.
I think that was very interesting. So next we got Sophia Suara. I hope I didn't mess up your name. I'm so sorry. An upcoming freshman at Hume Fogg. If she isn't reading or writing, she is sleeping. She is an amazing soul to be around, so give it up for her.
Is that fine? Can y'all hear me? Okay, great. So, like they said, I'm Sophia Suara, and so my topic for I'm going to tell my story first, but my topic for my interview was music production. And so I interviewed Rob Curtin, who's a local music producer, and we just talked about music. So I'll tell my story now. If I can find it, oh my God. Okay. This is the story of how I became Sophia the singer. Well, if I wanted to title that more accurately, I would have just said how I started singing. But that's too long and doesn't have an alliteration. Plus, it gives me an air of professionalism that I desperately need. My love of music, or more specifically, singing, comes from my family. There are a few times in my life that I can recall that somebody wasn't playing music or singing. My mother always sang songs in Yoruba, her native language, and my dad would always play songs he grew up with, like Bob Marley and Fela Kuti. My brothers and sisters introduced me to different songs and would sing all the time. They were also in musicals and played instruments, so they truly loved music. So it was pretty easy for me to fall in love with music. But funnily enough, they weren't even the main cause. It was High School Musical. It's weird, but the movie just struck a chord. Seeing Gabriella and Troy sing passionately and express so much through singing, just like Troy and Gabriella, it was the start of something new. That was when I knew I loved singing and that it would be an important part of my life. So I started singing all of the time. I'm surprised my parents didn't get angry at me. Sorry, Mom. Everywhere I would go, I would sing. I couldn't even hum quietly. All the time, it would just be like, I just had to sing. I'd always ask people to rate my voice and what they thought of it. The reason for my newfound hobby, more like obsession, was that I thought I would get famous. I thought some well-known music producer would see me on the street and sign me to a contract where I'd become famous and make lots of money. That sadly never happened, but I'm still waiting. So if you ever hear obnoxiously loud singing on the street, it's probably me. One of the most important memories I associate with music happened in the summer before fifth grade. I went to 4-H camp. I was rooming with my friends. I went swimming, almost drowned. Went tubing, almost drowned. Missed all of the targets at the archery range and rifle range. It was great. One day I'd overheard somebody talking about a talent show and how they would enter. I've always wanted to sing in front of people, so this was my chance, right? Nah, every time somebody would mention it, I would always chicken out. If it wasn't for my annoyingly persistent friends and my terrible impulse control, I wouldn't have done it at all. So there I was, standing on a stage with a mic clasped in my hands and my heart pounding. I was supposed to be following a very crowd-energized performance of Cotton Eye Joe. I made eye contact with my friend in the crowd, and she gave me a smile paired with a thumbs up. I'm pretty sure I blacked out during the first verse, but the chorus was so memorable. People were clapping and singing along. I moved around the stage as if I'd been on it my whole life, and I was singing my heart out. It was a moment where I had realized that this was what it feels like to be a performer. The electricity between the audience and me was wonderful. My adrenaline was pumping, and I felt on top of the world. After I'd gotten off stage, people clapped me on the back. And told me how I did. I felt good, and I felt confident. It was like I was floating on a cloud, effortless and free. Music at that point had enveloped my life, and my family didn't do much to help. Music was so important in my culture that it was pretty much unavoidable. All the car rides were talking, couldn't fill the silence. The radio was turned on, and the car now had me and my siblings singing at the top of our lungs. The constant arguments about which Jackson 5 member we were. I was obviously Michael. Us singing, Mr. I'll make a man out of you, in the middle of the night and in different parts of the house. Music is so important to me. It's what I turn to when I'm sad, when I'm happy, when I need energy. Music is like water. It's universal and flexible to my needs. Music has become my place of refuge, my comfort. It's my sun rising in a quiet morning, my star in a dark sky. Music is the language I speak when my tongue fails me. This is a story of how I became Sophia the singer. My love of music has only grown over the years, and at this rate, it will never diminish. Thank you. And so now I'll play my clip of my podcast. Like I said before, I interviewed Rob Curtin, a local music producer. And so this was my very last question, and it was, what is music to you? And so we'll hear it now. What is music to you?
Music is love. And love can be either passionate and sometimes you have to feel, like people get angry, they have to feel something. You have to care. Music is caring. Music in a sense is like, if you're angry, if you're writing, you're doing like rage and heavy music, you have to care about something that has caused you to, or like political music where you got Marvin Gaye singing what's going on. Politically charged music asking a question. Music is emotional. good music is. I think you have to have feeling behind it for it to stick to the listener.
I feel like that's how much music impacts people because of the feelings.
Absolutely. Here it started. Rhythm is three parts. Music is three parts, right? To my understanding, it's harmony, rhythm, and melody. And when those three, the three rope chord, woven together is biblical. Where there are three, and those three elements equal real good music: harmony, rhythm, and melody. So when you got those three together, it's a good time to be had. Or I'll say there's a feeling to be felt when those three are working in harmony.
Okay, well, thank you so much for coming. I really appreciate it.
It has been my pleasure. I hope that this interview helps somebody.
Thank you.
Next up, we have Ella Neely. She's a 14-year-old Dungeons and Dragon player and novel extraordinaire. Her love for writing finally beat out of her desperate need for sleep, so here we go.
Thank you. Can you hear me? Okay. Good morning. I'm Ella Neely, or Ella Rain, as I've been called during this internship. And I'm going to ask a couple of rhetorical questions. Have you ever had a friend that you do absolutely anything for? If so, I want you to think of a time you did something with them that had the potential to get both of you in major trouble. Remember how fun it was? Running around and going places you're not supposed to go with your best friend is like twice as fun as hanging out where your parents are cool with. Hannah was one of those friends. She had a crooked smile and kind of amiable personality with a hint of mischief. When I'm with other friends and they ask me, hey, how about you sit in the shopping cart and we send you hurtling down aisle 7, I'll wince and go, I don't know, man, my mom said I probably shouldn't. But not with Hannah. I'll sit next to her and say, are you thinking what I'm thinking? And she'll smile and reply, walk to Big Lots, buy a ridiculous amount of candy, and sit in my room for 4 hours eating it while listening to punk rock. And then in a few hours, you could find us screaming the lyrics to My Chemical Romance and acting like we're in the music video in the pouring rain. That's just the kind of friendship we have. She's kind of like my partner in crime. My mom knew this, so when we would hang out, she'd be like, stay away from the 6-lane intersection. So there we were at the 6-lane intersection, waiting for the distant flashing sign to say, hey, you probably won't be turned into roadkill if you walk over here right now. Flash forward about 30 minutes, and we're walking home from Burger King, and it started drizzling rain as we recrossed the road. We were in good spirits despite it. I looked at her and said, I'm sure it won't pick up more than this. Then the rain started to pick up. Minutes later, we were drudging through ankle-deep water as the rain slammed down on our heads. I clung to Hannah's arm for dear life. My glasses were so fogged, I could have thought the storm clouds had come all the way down from the sky just to ruin our afternoon. I couldn't see, I couldn't hear, and I was spitting water when I tried to speak. Now we were about halfway home to my home, which is in the valley, and I kind of started to imagine the whole thing filling up with rainwater like a milk bowl. My house wasn't underwater, which is a good thing, but I could only tell how far we were from the amount we had walked since I could only make out the sidewalk under my feet. I started to think, all right, so the plan is I'll get inside, and I'll run to the shower, and I'll hide the snacks under my bed, and my mom will never know about it. Now, I know my mom is here today, and I'm just going to go ahead and apologize. Not for really going behind your back, but more for making it like such a lazy plan to do it. I love ya. And a few more minutes later, we were shivering under my porch. Now, this is where Hannah had to say goodbye. She continued on walking to her house, and I was left dripping water onto my welcome mat. I later learned that her mom wasn't actually really mad at her at all. And I kind of wish my mom had a similar reaction. After fussing over how wet my clothes were and how there's water in my backpack and my physics notes were soaked, and I got out of the shower, I was looking through all my stuff, trying to be like, okay, where's my phone? And then it hit me. I had left my phone in Burger King, and it was 8 p.m. I wasn't allowed to hang out with friends for a few weeks after that. Thank you. And I believe I'm going to be playing part of my podcast. I had an interview with Fox Vyers. He is a student of herbalism, and because that was my topic, probably should have mentioned that. I was studying herbalism for the past 6 weeks. So here's my clip of my interview with him.
So my first question is, what role do plants play in your life?
Wow, what role do plants play in my life? Well, they obviously have a medicinal value, but for me they also have psychological components and philosophical value. One of the very first things that my father taught me when I was growing up was how to raise a garden. And while it is, it's a very basic garden, he just really did tomatoes and cucumbers and just, I grew up in an Appalachian area in the mountains of Kentucky, so I was surrounded by all of these plants. This is a funny little anecdote, but it probably was the first spark of my interest in herbs, and it's not traditional, and some people might chuckle at it. The Little Mermaid was my favorite cartoon, and I was fascinated by Ursula. Even though she was the bad guy, she had these shelves filled with all of these different bottles, and she kind of knew what to mix for what effect. And I would often run loose in the mountains and gather all of these different plants, mix them up in my mom's bird bath, and force her to put them in old-fashioned green Pepsi bottles in the windowsill.
Okay, well, thank you.
Wasn't that amazing? Okay, so. She is very outgoing and easy and nice to talk to. She's considered to be very tall, so a lot of people ask her if she plays basketball, but she doesn't. She doesn't like cheese on pizza. She doesn't like cheese, but except on pizza. She's Nigerian and has been our MC for today. Her name is Faith Ova. So the topic I chose for my podcast was prison reform and mental health. I think that was a big issue and something important for me because I felt like it was interesting that prison is also called a correctional facility, so that means helping you get better. But you see that most former inmates end up going back to prison anyways. So I wanted to highlight the why and instead of what they did. So I interviewed Daniel Westbrooks, and you're gonna listen to a specific part of the podcast.
It's like they making up their own games,
Especially in school.
Yeah.
And then they claim a color and everything.
Yeah, and it's like, wow.
Or there's people who are wannabes.
Got the wannabes too.
And that's even a bigger part. It's just why do you want to be about that life so hard? They think it's a good life, and that's what I don't understand.
I mean, it could be the music, it could be the people that they seeing, you never know. The wannabe, he could have a bigger brother that got caught up in a lifestyle. It's like, this is what he's seeing, so this is what he's attached to. He want to be like his big brother now. You know what I'm saying? Because that might have been all he had. Especially coming from not having a father in the household, or you never know what the situation is. That's why I say all the time, it's not about what a person does, it's why you did it.
True.
I'm trying to help you. We need to focus on why you did it so I can help you for that. Not tell you, oh, you don't need to be robbing, you don't need to be selling drugs. Yeah, we're going to get to that too, but why you feel like you need to rob, why you feel like you need to sell drugs.
Yeah.
Let's fix that problem first. Now we can tap into why this is wrong. You know why it's wrong. For one, you're going to be in jail or get killed. You see what I'm saying?
Yes.
So.
Anything else?
Yeah. That's it. Unless you got some more questions.
No. Also, this is Faith Bovo, and I had an opportunity to interview Daniel. Thank you for your time.
Thank you for having me.
In that part of our conversation, I like to call it a conversation instead of an interview, we were talking about in like mainly majority, predominantly black neighborhoods and why there's like this culture, like there's this set outcome that mainly black people think they have only two ways to go, like basketball or sports or like music. And that's been something that's been very interesting to me, that we need to break that set mindset and break what's going on because we have the ability to do anything, and I think that's what many people don't want us to realize, and I think that's something we should pay attention. And that also goes back to people who are former inmates. You see Daniel, he's a former inmate, but he has his own brand, and he's still a successful man, and he made that out of being a former inmate. Like, that doesn't change anything. So like, I feel like what I was trying to get out of is, no matter what situation you're coming from, no matter what you're in, that doesn't determine who you will be in the future and what you can do, because you can do anything. Do y'all have any questions? Y'all have any questions for me? No? No questions? Okay. What sparked my interest in this prison reform? What sparked my interest in prison reform was, I think, mainly watching people I grew up with actually going to prison, and also the shows. Like, when we see like all these predominantly black shows, it's always these men going to prison and they're focusing on what they did, or like even in Scared Straight, like I don't know, like it was just like watching all these prison shows and watching people focus more on what they did instead of why they did it. So that was very interesting to me. Yes, there is something that surprised me while I was doing my research. I didn't know there was a difference between prison and jail. Y'all, I didn't know that. So jail is where you go when you get arrested, and you can, it's like where you go when you first get arrested and you're waiting for a trial. Prison is more permanent. So that's where you go after you went on trial and that's prison. So I didn't know there was a difference, and that surprised me. And also restorative justice is something I learned. Restorative justice is basically the process of trying to find a way so both sides are healed. So like the person that committed the crime, but also the person that was affected by the crime. And finding a way to like make sure those same inmates understood what they did, but also don't let it eat them. Like they don't let it become them, and they also go away from that mistake and try not to go back and like help them with that. So like basically not help them go back to prison. Yeah, so that's also something I learned. Any other questions? So we're gonna let Miss Jackie take it away.
Let's hear it one more time for our outstanding One Voice Nashville summer interns.
All right, thank y'all so much. We're super proud of y'all. You killed it. So good. Get up for our MCs up here. I'm Mary Margaret. I started One Voice Nashville about 2.5 years ago. And we do programming at middle schools and high schools all over Nashville. So please look us up, onevoicenashville.org. Give us some time to do final edits on the podcast and the audio mixing, but it will be on there, so you'll be able to hear it in the full podcast, so not just the snippet that you heard. But look us up. My email and contact is over there. We have kind of a general information booth, but we teach storytelling and narrative journalism to help students come into their confidence and critical thinking skills. All right.
Hi, guys. My name is Anita, and I'm actually my intern's peer leader. So basically, I was Jackie and Mary Margaret's assistant for almost 6 weeks. And first, I want to mention that Ella Peters ever since he talked to my brother, my uncle is buying a recycling bin. So thank you. But other than that, I want to just say real briefly how honored I felt working with the interns this summer and how blessed I felt because, to be honest, I came in not really knowing anything. Jackie kind of was like, hey, you want this job? I was like, sure. But during my weeks of working with them, I learned a lot, not just in a more professional setting, but like we became friends, in my opinion. I hope you guys consider me a friend. And other than that, I'm really happy to present today the awards that we're fixing to give out to our our interns. Sorry. Yes.
All right, first up we have Ella Neely, and we gave her, she just took on this natural leadership within the group. We had two Ellas, this is Ella Rain. She is incredibly adaptive and engaging. Like every time we had a guest, she had so many questions, had so many good interaction with adults and youth her age. So we gave her the Adaptive and Engaging Award.
Come on, come get it.
We'll shake your hands, we'll be official. You want to give that one?
Wait, Neely, Rain, wait. This one yours, stand. All right, and the next award I'm presenting is for Mackenzie, and she got awarded for sincerity and creativity. So the time that I was with Mackenzie, even though she doesn't believe it, but every time she spoke, she was very sincere and honest about it. Not only that, but she was, especially with her topic about office job and how they made it more interesting and not be involved with just their job. So, Mackenzie.
Next up, we have Maybe You've Noticed, our brave one male who knew on the front end, Shemar Lawrence. You can come on up. He gets our Empathic Team Player Award. So you heard he loves sports, but it's more than that. He took it on himself, for instance. Some of our interns ride the bus to get here. He took it on himself to make sure that they were safe getting there to and from. And he's just that kind of person that looks out for everybody around him and just does whatever's needed. So thank you, Shemar.
All right, next up, this person could work without a lot of supervision. She really took ownership and has incredible maturity for someone her age, and you saw that in her interview. So we gave Bibi the Focus and Insight Award. She has an incredible insight into all kinds of topics and did so much research for her podcast. So give it up for Bibi.
Our next award is for Encourage and Enlightenment, and that's going to Sophia. So my time with Sophia, she's always been encouraging to every single one of her peers, and also to me, even though she doesn't know it. So, Sophia?
Next up, Promise Udeza. We gave you the Courageous Leader Award. And go ahead and come on up. Y'all, Promise this summer has not only taken on roles to lead things for the group and just like really put herself out there, but she's taken feedback well. She has looked for things to do, and she's just stepped up. And I don't know if you heard her voice on that podcast and on the stage today, but you are born to shine, and we're really glad we got to see that this summer.
All right, our next person, also a natural leader, has a lot of passion for whatever she's talking about, and she really draws people into her conversation, into her leadership. And she's just an advocate for herself, for other people, and this is why we gave Faith Ovo the Impassioned Advocate Award. You're welcome.
All right, so our next award is Confident and Discerning, and this is going to Ella Peters. To be honest, I don't know what the other word means, so I'm gonna.
So Ella has a lot of confidence and has this very critical mind, and she also gave her topic a lot of research. So that's the behind-the-scenes work that you didn't see, but she researched a lot about recycling, and she just is able to think very critically and discerning. So thank you, Ella.
All right, and last but not least, and this really says it in the award, we have Lakira Floyd. Come on up here. Perseverance and professionalism. You would not know from her story, but she's the bedrock of our program in so many ways, just making things happen behind the scenes, in front of the scenes. She's one of our head facilitators with Promise, and she just really knocked our socks off this summer. So thank you so much for doing everything you did. Thank you again so much for coming to our showcase.